I'm here. Doug?
Here.
Diane?
Here.
Jeff?
Here.
Stacy?
There.
Stephanie?
Here.
Okay, Dana?
Here.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, wrong day.
Jose?
Here.
John Nelson?
Here.
Mark?
Here.
And Tim? Okay, we do have a quorum. Next thing we need to do is elect officers for Budget Committee Chair, then Budget Committee Vice Chair, and then Budget Committee Secretary. Just so you remember that the Budget Committee Secretary has the easiest job. All I have to do is sign papers after Susan gets everything written up. The Budget Committee Vice Chair probably has the most difficult job of sitting there looking like they know what they're talking about or whatever. And the Budget Committee Chair just basically chairs this order and turns it over to various and sundry people. And then at the end awaits for somebody to make a motion to adopt. So do we have a nomination for Budget Committee Chair?
I volunteer.
Okay.
I
good.
nominate Stacy. Good thinking, I'll second.
Okay. So we have a individual who is willing to be chair. Wonderful. Do we have any other nominations? If not, okay, Stephanie, you're it.
Oh, thank you.
I know.
appreciate the vote of confidence. Very kind. And as the chair, I go on to say, do we have any nominations for vice chair? Any volunteers for vice chair?
I will nominate Jeff.
Yeah, because I'm going off the board. but-
Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Remember, this is a one day affair.
Okay.
I second that nomination.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Jeff, you've got that hard job.
And then are there nominations for the secretary? I'll volunteer.
You'll be it?
Sure.
Okay, good.
I'll second for Dana.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Boom. Okay, Chair, take over.
So our first order of business is to hear the superintendent's budget message.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate your time and attention to our budget process. I know that it's more time out of your day. I want to start by just letting you know that our budget, we are presenting it with as fair and factual a manner as possible, so that we can show you how we intend to serve the school districts of our ESD and our students. And we're presenting what I would consider somewhat of a bare bones budget. We did the best we could to make sure that we were following the public, tell me again.
Public Program Accounting Manual.
And we,
PBAM.
PBAM, yes, and we relied very heavily on support and consultation from the Oregon School Business Association to make sure that we could present this information in a factual manner to you all. So I want to start by just reviewing a few things. As you all know, ESDs are actually legislatively mandated to provide certain supports to school districts. We provide special education supports, particularly to students that have not yet started school, school improvement supports, technology, and administrative services. In our case, administrative services, in the case of Hood River, is nursing services. A few things to highlight from my budget message. It's built on the governor's proposal for an $11.4 billion budget for K-12 education for the next biennium. This is the first year of the biennium, and so we will be receiving 49% of our portion of that. And it's based on the best information that we have at the time. We are coming to the end of the long legislative session, and things have changed sometimes daily. So it's based on the information that we had when we built this budget. There are some things that I want to make note of in our budget development, some constraints. Our audit for the 23-24 school year was completed in March of 25. In our audit, we had 7 material weaknesses that we are continuing to work to address as we build this budget. We have new leadership that's working to ensure transparency and consistency in accounting practices. As has been mentioned in previous audits, we're a relatively small organization. And so following some of those generally accepted accounting principles can be tough when you only have a couple of folks in a business office. And we're working to resolve some of those things. We're also paying particular attention to special revenue fund accounting. You'll see that noted as 200 fund because ESDs receive much of their funding from special revenue accounts, not from the state school fund. And of note, and many of you that are sitting on current school boards know this, the May revenue forecast has put that 11.4 billion allocation at risk. Our May revenue forecast was quite dire. And so whereas early in this session, we were quite confident that it might actually even get a little bit higher, we're now advocating that it actually be funded at 11.4 billion. There are a few budget influences that I'd like to take a moment to talk about, some federal factors, some state funding trends, and some local trends. One of the things that I have been getting asked a lot lately is, what would happen if federal funds were cut? And this is a site, and I can send you the link to it, that I find particularly helpful when explaining that, because it's not a simple answer. And I'm actually going to click on this link and see if it'll take me where I want it to go. Yep, it does, but now I need to share this tab. There we go. So this is a map that was developed by the National Education Association that actually shows state by state how much K-12 funding comes to your state. This is Oregon. We receive 1,334 federal dollars per student attending public school. And it would take an 8% rise in local and state taxes to replace federal education dollars. What you will often hear on the news right now is talk about specific programs. And so this site actually delineates school meals programs, special education grants, title grants, after-school programs, rural school, Indian and Native Hawaiian Alaskan education. And it literally goes state by state and shows. And there are some states that are obviously much more dependent on federal funding than others. But it's a difficult question to answer. It's not a binary, it would get better or worse. Let me see if I can make this go back. All right. Now can I get back to my, no, I need to get back now. So I might have to stop sharing for a second. Sorry. My Zoom is not cooperating. I'm going to start sharing again. Let's go back. So I think it's important to understand, because you all are serving on other boards, exactly. There's some pretty big impacts. The thing right now is that Oregon has received their Title 1A allocation, and we're expecting to see that next week. And we've been told by Dr. Williams at ODE that there's some pretty big winners and some pretty big losers. That does not impact the ESD. It does impact our constituent districts tremendously. At the state level, this is a picture of the last 5 biennium. So in the 17-19 biennium, the allocation for K-12 education was a little over $8 billion for the biennium. Of note, if you'll look in the middle, you'll see, I know these numbers are really small, but you'll see that there was only a 3% increase in biennium spending. That's because for that biennium, the Oregon legislature said, you have ESSER money. Go ahead and spend the ESSER money. We're not going to give you as much. And one of the impacts of that you're seeing around the state right now is that on top of the increased PERS burden, we never made this ground back up, and ESSER money is gone. This year, you'll see that we received an 11.4% increase in our state school fund because the governor took a look at the formula that was being used. We get 49% of our money this year, 51% next year. They had been allocating our budget for the next biennium based off of 50%. So schools were always going down. And now it's actually being calculated based off that 51%. So we are receiving a little bit more of a share that's appropriate. It's not meeting the needs of all of our districts. And here locally, and again, this is a state challenge also, but locally our ESD over about the last 8 years has lost over 500 students. And again, our constituent districts, this is real money for them. And we receive some of our state funding based off of the average daily membership of our entire ESD region. And again, Hood River and North Wasco have seen the biggest declines, 250 and 300 students respectively. Jufer has been the most stable. They've lost about 10 students in this same time period. So this is for our it's our 4 school districts, yes, the 2 counties. So right now, our projected Columbia Gorge ESD budget for the 25-26 year is a little over $18 million. And you all have 20 pages of numbers in front of you. I want to show you a few different pictures and tell you a couple of stories. And then Vanessa's going to answer some questions about some of those numbers. I'm hoping I can show a few pictures and tell a few stories. And I want to talk a little bit and make some comparisons, again, to K-12 education. In the ESD world, the fund distribution is quite different. We rely very heavily on categorical funds, special revenue accounts. Over 50% of our budget are either competitive or non-competitive grants that have very specific restrictions about how they get spent and on who they get spent on. In a school district, it's what, 70, 75% mark is Fund 100 and only about 25% is, yeah. You have some transportation money, you have some IDEA money, some things like that. We rely very heavily on grants. Some of them are non-competitive. The State Department of Education gives us money to say, help the school districts with their integrated guidance work. And so we hire staff to do those things. Help small and rural school districts with coaching, with all of the burden of reporting. And so we do those things. There's still reporting that goes along with those special revenue accounts. I want to take a look again a little bit further of our budget. We spend roughly 59% of our budget either on staff or on, I put in 310, which is an object code, purchased services. We actually buy time of people. It's been increasingly challenging, the orange part of that pie graph, to find special education staff. And so we actually are purchasing school psychology services, speech and language pathology services. We're purchasing those services as opposed to hiring those folks at the ESD. So when you add the blue and the orange together, you get about 59% of our budget that is spent on people. And again, that's quite different from a school district. A school district is spending about 85% of their budget on people. It gives our constituent districts very little wiggle room when they see huge PERS increases, when they have districts that are negotiating for higher salaries, because there isn't a lot of space. But part of what an ESD is tasked with is providing services and experiences to our constituent districts. And the grants require that we do those things. So our balance is quite different than what you would see in a K-12 system. But of the blue part of that pie chart, I want to show you quickly that when we're taking a look at the money that we spend on people, we're spending about $5.5 million just on salary, on gross salary. And then,
And this is all funds, grants.
this is all, correct, this is all funds, yes. And then we're spending a little over 20% on payroll and benefits. And we're spending almost 20% on PERS, which if you look at that number, 1.85 million, it is 10% of the ESD's overall budget is for our district is spent on PERS. And in talking to people at OASBO, at the organization that supports school business officials, the expectation is that the PERS increase will be at least this great, if not greater, when they set rates for the next biennium. In part because of the instability that we've seen at the federal level and the volatility that we're seeing in the markets. And we fared better than many of our constituent districts because we did not have a side account. And I'm not going to try and explain a side account. Mark? Yeah, it's a tough concept, but many districts are really digging out of a hole right now because those side accounts are retiring. So what I'd like to do briefly is just kind of break the budget down in the ways that individuals, that staff, that families, and that the educators would be working with the ESD. So I'm going to talk a little bit about departments. So we have central office, which would predominantly be funded with 100 fund accounts. Superintendent's office, the board of directors, our fiscal office, human resources, and technology. And our central office budget, not including our technology department, and I'll explain that in a moment, is 8 staff members. We've got about 85 full-time regular employees. 8 of those staff members support central office duties. In the summer, we hire 50 plus temporary employees to run all of our summer programming. So in the summer months, we're at about 130. And that we're supporting the board of directors and the entire ESD. Technology is included in that, but it's also much more than that. Technology, the budget is about another 1.4 million, and you will see that that budget actually decreased because we made some changes in how we're accounting with some flow-through money to our school districts. There are 8 staff members, but those 8 staff members serve the ESD. They are the tech department for North Wasco School District, and they provide support to Duper and South Wasco in terms of E-rate, connectivity, cybersecurity. We also actually host the routers for the community college. So that's a contracted service. Much of a school district's requirement for insurance right now through PACE, for example, we have to meet very stringent cybersecurity protocols. And we saw in January, for anyone that's associated with a school district, that those protocols, that it was breached, regardless of all of our work. And our technology team took the lead in North Wasco and for the ESD to try and remedy that situation. Another department that's serving all of our districts in a variety of ways is education and innovation. This is just shy of $1 million program. They are in the local service plan and they do receive quite a bit of grant funding. Much of it is non-competitive in nature. They get student investment account, technical assistance funds, high school success funds, everyday matter funds, and they do a tremendous amount to serve our 2 rural school districts. We have someone that spends 2 days a week in South Wasco and 2 days a week in Duper, supporting teachers and instructional work that happens there. And we do mentoring of administrators and teachers. This program saw a 7% reduction for next year. Early learning is our biggest program. It's our most front-facing program. It's a $3 million program with 24 staff members, so almost it's a little less than a third of the ESD. It's in our local service plan because we provide early childhood assessment for students that might need speech pathology or occupational therapy or physical therapy. We also have 67 students that we serve in our Sunshine Preschool Promise program. That means that parents are not paying. If they qualify based on their income, those students are attending preschool through this Preschool Promise program. We're also, in addition to those students, serving 104 students through early intervention. That budget, this budget, unlike the others, 90% of it is spent in personnel. There's not a lot of wiggle room there because we're serving students, we're serving families. We're helping parents work with their kids in the home on routines, on speech pathology, on occupational and physical therapy. The next set of slides that I'm going to show you is service beyond our ESD. We work with North Central ESD, which covers Gillum, Wheeler, and Sherman counties. And much of the service that we provide in the next slide, we're serving that ESD along with our own. So 5 counties, 10 school districts, and then the charter school here in North Wasco. Special programs is our other very front-facing program. We have 10 staff members. It is part of the local service plan because of our Native American services to students. And then there's a significant amount of grant funding for migrant education, for summer programming, for our 21st century programming, our Latinx grant, and we're serving students in all 5 counties. We have a very robust summer school program, as I said, over 50 students. We also have a culture camp that is run with our Native American coordinator, and we coordinate with the next door. And we have about 60 students. We work closely with our local tribes, and that 2-week program concludes with a powwow. If you haven't been, I would strongly encourage you to go. It's a fabulous experience. Health services, I would tell you, is our biggest growing department right now. We have a new health services supervisor. We provide health services and the nurses for Hood River County. We also provide a nurse and supervision for the nurse that's in Sherman County. And we are working on a contract with North Wasco to be able to provide their health services and supervision, as the hospital decided that they were not going to provide those services to North Wasco School District. So we have been working with them, with Dr. Bernal and with Randy Anderson, to develop a contract, and we will be looking at moving forward with supporting them. We're also looking at providing more support to Mosier, as Mosier is admitting a student next year that's going to need a great deal of nursing support. So our nurse supervisor is actually in the process of writing a grant so that we can help to support them as they enroll that student next year. Our STEM Hub, one of our smaller programs, but I'll tell you, darn, they are small but mighty. This program actually received quite a significant cut from ODE. They have 5 staff members, and they're actually supporting 7 counties because they support 2 counties on the other side of the river. It's the way that the STEM hubs have been organized, and so they're working with Klickitat and I want to say Skamania, yes. Providing support to educators in areas of career technical education, artificial intelligence, computer science, whether it's with students, whether it's STEM nights in Hood River. They're working to support teachers in all of those areas. They just finished a 4-hour training in Duper last week on artificial intelligence and how teachers can use it to free up their time to be able to spend more time with kids. But like I said, this program has received some cuts.
$495,000 doesn't cover 5 certified staff members.
It is, they're not certified, they were hired as classified, and I'm specifically listing them as staff members and not FTE.
Okay.
Because the FTE in an ESD, as I'm learning, is quite wonky. Some folks work 190 days, some folks work 205 days, some folks work 240 days. Some folks work 210 days, but only 0.6. And so I gave up on the FTE thing, to be quite honest with you, and I went to just bodies. So no, they have a director and they have 3 part-time TOSAs, basically, and an administrative assistant
Okay, all
that they
right,
share with another department.
okay.
But the FTE got pretty crazy. Our Four Rivers Early Learning and Parenting Hub, again, serves all 5 counties. Whereas our early learning department focuses on the students, the Early Learning Center really focuses on supporting the parents and helping parents through parent cafes and getting kids signed up for preschools, showing them what all of the licensed options are. And one of the things that's happening next year that happened in K-12 education 2 years ago is that the legislators passed something that basically doesn't allow us to suspend or expel students. And this happened in the K-12 world 2 years ago. It's now happening in the preschool world if your preschool is licensed or is what's considered a non-exempt agency, which means it's actually run by a school district or an ESD, then you are no longer allowed to basically call mom and say, you know what, this just isn't working out, bring him back next year. You will not be able to maintain your license if you suspend or expel a preschooler. And so one of the things that's happening, and there's actually some new money in this program, is that we're hiring an early childhood person that will specifically support those licensed providers to be able to better support those students that are really struggling with routines and behaviors in a preschool setting. Because otherwise, what we're going to see is far more of a daycare desert than we have now, because people are going to opt to not get licensed. And so the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub is working to figure out how to support those individuals so that we don't lose more licensed providers. Last but not least, our Regional Educator Network Hub, which again relies quite heavily on 200 fund accounts. We have a very healthy grow your own program. In 9 of our 10 districts that we serve, we are supporting classified employees and teachers to go back and either receive their teaching license or receive another endorsement. And we're supporting them, helping them with enrollment and with their tuition. And that's a grant that was just recently renewed for another year. We also have a state student success grant in the area of LGBTQ+, and we're supporting families and students and educators. There are 5 staff members in that department, and they're providing professional development that comes from the grassroots up, but then is also partially driven by things that happen with your integrated program work and the goals that are being set by that integrated program work. So they're providing support and direction in both ways. So the money that, if you've been adding things up as I've been going along, that does not account for the whole $18 million because there's obviously a lot of other costs that go into running an organization, but that is often how folks interact with the ESD. One of the things that I will be working with, and Vanessa and I will be as we move forward, having talked about PERS, that is not currently reflected in the budget that you have in front of you, is that we need to work at setting up a PERS reserve account so that as PERS increases their rates moving forward, we don't feel forced into a position where we need to make a quick decision, that we would potentially have some room within our budget to handle an increase before we would have to start looking at things like the RIF. So that'll be something moving forward that I suggest that we start looking at. Vanessa, do you want to, are there things that you would like to be able to specifically delineate, or if there are folks that have questions right now, or Vanessa can walk you through some of the things that she has done. She gets the numbers part of it. I got the pictures part of it.
Hey, comment on the PERS situation. Friend of mine monitors PERS fairly closely. That's their job. One of the problems that PERS has had is they, instead of looking at it in a long or even we might think is a short term, they look at it as annualized. An annualized basis does not work well when you're talking about money over a period of time. They are planning on going to a 5 to 10 year look back, look forward, which will probably do a lot to moderate those funny increases over time. They haven't done it yet,
Done it yet.
but they will.
Yeah.
The other thing I got a kick out of is, of the bills in the legislature, they targeted 28. However, they did not share with anybody what those 28 were.
Targeted 28.
28 different bills.
Oh.
Some I'm sure don't even deal with first, but that's beside the point. I like sometimes the way semi-public agencies work or don't. And this is one that doesn't at times.
There are a few things I wanted to point out. Health services increased quite a bit because of the Northwest contract for nursing services. There are a few things that you'll see in the budget that have zero numbers. There are some that didn't move forward. We didn't have funding moving forward. Specifically 21st Century, it was in the budget incorrectly, and so I moved it. And you will see that it looks like it's in here twice. If I can find it.
So you zeroed it out in one section.
Yeah, page 19. It looks like there's nothing, but if you look at page 21, you'll see that it is there. 21st Century. We did move that based on the function that it's currently set at our system.
Can you go out? I'm on page
It's-
19.
It's on page 20,
Is it on
Doug.
20?
Yeah, it's on
Sorry.
page 20, it's zeroed out.
Oh, got it.
And if you look on page 22, you will actually see the actuals for this year. And we did receive confirmation from our director that at least for this coming year, 21st Century seems to be okay because that's federal money. We don't know after this current federal fiscal year.
You see that 425 is covered.
Yes.
Summer school was included in migrant ed. They said that they had combined it, so that's why that number is quite a bit different, and summer school is zeroed out. Let's see what else.
I'm sorry. Hi, I'm joining on from online. It's Corinda, and I just didn't get out of clinic in time. I apologize, but I can't find that the budget ever got sent to us. Did it get sent in an email?
The day before yesterday. I can resend it.
Do you mind? I got a notice that it was going to be sent, but I never actually got that it was sent.
We'll resend it right now.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So thank you.
Should I wait?
You're okay.
Four Rivers Early Learning Hub and Education and Innovation are combined, and I feel like that is something that needs to change moving forward. I just wanted to point that out. It's just how it's structured in our system, but I don't think that it's the right function. So I'm just pointing that out because that's Four Rivers Early Learning Hub and Education and Innovation. I don't believe should be together, but
That's why the 1.3 million jump.
yes. Any other notes I have? School safety and prevention had some cuts, so that one has been reduced. STEM also had some cuts. We kind of Dana kind of alluded to that. And I'm gonna let you guys out if you have any questions.
So STEM was cut 300,000.
Yes, it was a very unfortunate process because ODE actually started the process for having them write their grants back in the fall. And then the hubs have a very interesting organizational structure at our state level because they all have an outside board that coordinates with the State Department of Education. And the STEM Hub received new leadership in late winter. And they basically asked the STEM directors to go back to the drawing board and rewrite their grants, and they only had a few weeks. And it became a competitive process, and we did not fare as well in that competitive process. We actually have one of the smaller STEM hubs in the state.
Couple of questions. Where did the migrant ed recruitment, 1.3 million end up?
That is also combined with the migrant education, it's all in one.
That's 27.
Yeah.
So our, and Mark, I'd be curious, because you have a migrant ed grant also. What we've been told, and I'm not sure if the State Department of Education is doing it, or if it happened at the federal level, they're combining 3 grants into one. We used to have a preschool migrant ed grant. We used to have a during the year grant, and then summer school was completely separate.
Yeah.
And recruitment, was that the third one?
And I think there's a couple, there was some confusion, so as far as the function and that, there may be changes, but right now, I was told by the director it was combined, and so.
Yeah. So everything is under one for moving forward, where they would have been delineated before. And at this point, we have also been told that migrant, we don't anticipate maybe a small cut, 5 to 8%, but we don't have any allocations from the federal government yet for Title I-C.
And I guess that's one of my questions for those federal grants. Migrant being a large one, Medicaid being another.
Yes.
Do we have any intel that says what to anticipate?
No, right now, I was in a superintendent meeting on just yesterday afternoon. And I specifically asked the question of Dr. Williams, who is the state superintendent of school. They only have an allocation for Title I-A. There are no allocations for any of the other programs. And you all know the federal budget starts in October. And so, and the Title I-A allocation was several months late. But I specifically asked about Title I-C and no information yet.
And the directors are updating us as they find information. And someone told me this is just a budget, so it can change.
They
And
said what?
this is just a budget, and it can change, right?
It will change.
It will change.
An estimate.
And that's
Exactly,
yes.
so that's, and we're gonna work, I think we're going to work on it monthly, because there's just so many unknowns, so.
But
Yeah.
you would scale your program
Yes,
in title
Me-
funding. You wouldn't be able to fund that.
no,
No.
no.
So it-
But what we have to look at, again, that's a 200 fund program. We have to take a look at what does ODE tell us are the required activities? Do we still have to have a recruiter? Do we still need to have someone in the preschools? Do we still need to have a graduation specialist? And once they tell us what that formula is, then we would be taking a look at what do we need to do. For example, right now we have 2 preschool specialists. And so it would depend on what ODE tells us the requirements are for that money. And honestly, with the combining of the programs, we've been asking for that information all year long, and we still don't even have that. So there's a tremendous amount of unknown when it comes to migrant
I mean,
education.
it's hard to do a budget. You don't have a
It's hard
revenue.
to do a budget, yes.
I've got a few more.
That's okay.
You said the tech fund was cut about 500,000, and it looked like one is other general professional technical services. What is that?
So on the tech, that's what you're talking about?
Right, I'm telling
So-
you, 15.
So one of the things, I can answer the first part of that. The way that our local service plan had been developed in the past is that we have districts that do quite a bit of flow through for their local service plan,
Oh, yeah.
their resolution funds. And a big chunk of that, honestly, was being put in the tech budget. And we're opting to put that into a different object code this year.
Okay,
That's part of it. But other professional technical services can be things, for example, the tech department right now is opting to go through an audit where they're bringing someone in from another ESD to audit their programs. In part because we had 2 pretty big data breaches this year that weren't our fault, but that we had to manage. And so we want to be able to have someone come in from the outside and take a look at our programs.
Kind of like the sort of
That's okay.
Superintendent's office. About
I
80,000.
did.
Would you shift some of your allocation or Susan's allocation to the student's
Yes.
office from someplace
We
else?
shifted Susan
From,
from HR, from Human Resources, yes. And we have money in there for professional technical because we've been working with Debbie Simons, who's actually just elected as the new director of the Oregon School Personnel Association. And she's been helping us with some of our human resources functions. So part of that's coming out of the superintendent's office.
and I've got one last, and this is
Okay.
a less comfortable one maybe.
Yep.
Looks like our ending fund balance is going to be in the general fund about 29%, which is uncomfortably high.
Yes.
And it jumped, I don't know, about $1 million from last year to this year. Kind of, can you explain what's going on?
So I would, you want to?
From what I understand,
Yeah.
it was an estimate and it was not accurate. And so, it was the best estimate at the time, but it's, not actually, if you look at the actuals from the previous year, I know that it's closer to what we're proposing.
Okay.
I would encourage you to take a look at that that audited
Sure.
number from 23-24.
Okay,
Because the adopted or the, for 24-25 was an estimate.
And I did talk to Nancy with Oregon School Business officials very closely, and it was her recommendation that we keep it the way it is, based on what she's seen. And she's seen all the numbers, and she has said that that was an estimate, and
what, as you're looking, projecting, how close are we going to be to the 23, 24, or close to the adopted? Or you don't even want to guess?
I don't want to guess. There's, like, we had the last audit was, and so I think we're still cleaning things up this year. And I think it's going to be, the actuals are going to be a lot different than the adopted, unfortunately.
I have a question about the line item for 235, PMMLI. And I know I might have slept through this, but,
Oh, no, that's a good question.
Paid family medical leave.
okay, what I would love to see is that just kind of typed out.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely,
Because
thank
when
you.
parents look at it or
Yeah.
young people, I think that'd be nice.
What page
Yeah.
do you want?
It's on a lot of pages.
I think it's on every page.
Paid family medical. It's on a lot of pages.
PFMLI.
Got it.
Nice. People
Family
spot
medical
that,
leave
jumps out.
insurance.
Yeah.
I didn't know it the first time I looked at it either, Diane.
Yeah,
And I-
looked at that, I thought, maybe I missed something. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that just clarifies it so much more, because, and it's tied in with the medical, dental, and life, it makes
Exactly.
sense
Yeah.
for you.
It's
But it's
that
nice.
new paid leave, Oregon.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Our ending fund balance is.
Yes. And I alluded to the fact that I think that we need to have a conversation about PERS reserve. And that this is potentially a way for us to make sure that we are planning for the future.
Answered all my questions, thank you.
Thank you.
So.
If there are no additional questions, let's go on with the deliberation, hopefully approval.
Okay, to start the deliberations appropriately, I would move to approve the proposed 25-26 budget for Palmie Gorge Education Service District in the amount of $18,090,873.
Second. Questions?
We can do taxes.
Yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded that we accept the motion as at $18,090,873 All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
No discussion.
I thought that's what we just threw.
No, in order,
Okay.
technically, you need to have the motion so you can officially do the discussion.
Okay,
But then you say,
are there any questions
Yeah.
or?
I'd like to comment. I want to give Vanessa and Dina a lot of kudos. What they inherited, both coming in new and being able to work through the audit and put in front of us a defensible, reasonable budget, took a heck of a lot. So kudos to both of you. Well done. I feel, as a member of the board, I feel where we were a few months ago to where we are now, I feel like I have a lot there. So thank you.
And I appreciate that you are asking specific questions. I think that that level of transparency is very needed. I don't take it lightly that we're charged with spending public funds and that we need to make sure that we are doing that in a very transparent way. And I appreciate the questions.
Any additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Okay, and I would move to impose and categorize ad valorem taxes of 0.4678 per 1,000 value to be levied in support of the general fund.
Second. Discussion?
It is what it is.
What it is, so,
That's by statute, isn't it?
Yes,
so,
yeah, we're not asking for an increase or a decrease.
doing as we should. All those in favor of doing as we should, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
And what's nice is we don't have to have another meeting.
Shut us. Thank you for your participation.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, as a board chair, I'd say this is a very smooth operation, but very well. Thanks, Doug, for the questions.
In
Faster we